to start this great session. Fantastic. So it gives me great pleasure to return serve. This is actually Jim interviewed me on Call to Coach a number of years ago, and now I have the opportunity to have the world's foremost expert on strengths. I know that made him deeply uncomfortable, but what was really interesting to me is when I posted that on LinkedIn was the response that I got was a tsunami of people agreeing with my statement. So, Jim, it's such a pleasure to have you here today. Most of today is going to be listening to you, which is fantastic because most of these people have the misfortune of listening too much to me. So I'm going to make it much more about you and your story. We're going to be talking about strengths. Jim's role is at the head of the strengths community for Gallup worldwide. We've got Jim. I'm not sure how he would like to describe how we've got him today. Jim didn't have a holiday for about a year before COVID and has not had a break since. And we've got him on his very last Friday before he takes his first break for, oh, goodness knows how long that was. And so it talks about the energy, his energy and engagement for strengths around the world. I'm now going to throw over to you, Jim, and tell us a little bit about the Jim story. That's a little bit more than, because we always like to know the person beyond the role, because it's interesting to know you're the head of the strengths community for Gallup, and you can tell us a little bit more about what that role entails. But we always think that to know the person behind the role is something that we're really interested in on these monthly calls as well.
Yeah, Mick, thanks. It's always great to be here as early as it is here. And Mick is right. I'm headed towards about 8 days off in a row, disconnecting from social media, disconnecting from email. I've had some short stints of time off, but I never totally stopped doing my job. And I've told folks at Gallup, like, hey guys, I'm not doing anything, taking some time off. So it'll be good. That starts on Saturday, starts tomorrow. Mick, thanks for having me on. Great to be with you guys. I will be monitoring the chat. If you want to drop a question there too, if you're more comfortable doing it that way, that'd be great. Probably, I think the story of getting to doing what I'm doing at Gallup as a Clifton Strengths community manager is interesting because I never started with that end in mind. Like I started as an IT manager for Gallup. So I'd done database development. I was kind of a technology guy. I wrote code. I was a nerd, right? I was one of those guys that wrote SQL code to get information out of databases. And I had been working for a bank, built a big data warehouse for them. And started at Gallup as an IT manager. That morphed into recruiting, that morphed into community management because I'd been podcasting. Well, not at that point, but I'd started podcasting. And when we started this coaching community, I said to the leadership here at Gallup, hey, I think I have this cool way to communicate with the world in real time. And it's nearly free. And I mean, think about this. This was 2012. Nobody even knew what the word podcast was or meant. You'd say podcast and people's eyes would glaze over. And we're coming up. So July next month would be the 9-year anniversary of that start of Called the Coach. And what started as just kind of a hobby, even inside of Gallup, quickly morphed into this community management role, Mick, which was all of a sudden when the pandemic hit back in March of 2020, I was still half-time community manager and half-time recruiting for Gallup. And our recruiting dried up. And so my boss said, hey, just go full-time. And we created, we probably created 40% more content than we ever had before during COVID. That's why I haven't had a vacation in a while. The media content picked up in 2021, last year, a similar pace. We backed it off a little bit this year. Although our numbers still continue, I think I just saw a 20 or 30% increase in our numbers from a download perspective on the media. So, Mick, it's been an interesting journey to it. I find myself here, not by design, but maybe even by a little bit of accident. When you posted the invite for this session, one of our LDG, that's our internal sales folks, picked it up, sent it to me as a Teams, took a screenshot of it, sent it to me Teams, and said, "Hey, this is so great," So even internally, sometimes I think there's some surprise about where I've gotten to this with this role, but it continues to be very engaging and very exciting for me. So thanks for having me out this morning, or this afternoon for you guys, or this evening, depending on where you're listening. And I hope I live up to the premierness. Mick, you didn't call me a superhuman, which I was thankful for. And so thanks for having me on.
But the amount of time you put into strengths has been Herculean over those last couple of years, and probably no more important time in the history of the world for people to be focused on what's right with them, which is such an important insight. I know that we do a lot of work around the health and well-being component. Vicky Tipper, who's one of our Gallup strengths coaches, is doing strength-based well-being as unleashing our strengths in a well-being based way as well.